Welcome back. Today we're looking at the Kubey Master Chief. This one comes in at $56. This is a Keanu design. He's got several designs out now, and I like a lot of his stuff. It's a fairly, nice size EDC knife coming in at 8.11 inches. So it's a full-size knife with a 3.47-inch blade. So lots of cutting edge, nice wide, broad blade. You got a grip area from here to the back of 3.9 inches. Handle scale thickness is 0.12, so it's going to fill out the hand nicely. And the behind the edge thickness on this particular knife is around 14 thousandths behind the edge, so it's nice and thin because it's a high flat grind. This one has a blasted stonewash finish on it. It looks nice. I haven't had any problem with corrosion yet, but not usually my favorite finish on them because of corrosion. This one's in AUS 10, and Kubey does a pretty good job with their AUS 10. It's a good stainless steel, good budget stainless steel. Got a nice grippy row of jimping right there that does a good job of grabbing a hold of the thumb whenever it's on there. It's a nice fine cut jimping. You do have a sharpening choil, however, it just clears the plunge line, so it's going to widen up after your first sharpening. However, due to where the stop pin is placed, if you wanted to widen that up yourself, you could. Enough talk about that grind. Let's see how it cuts. You have a nice broad blade here that's pretty thin behind the edge, and it came with a very sharp edge out of box, so it was slicing the cardboard very, very well. And it feels like you get a lot of power behind that blade. Anytime you have those wider handles and wider blades, it always feels like I'm able to generate a lot of pressure into whatever I'm cutting. And this one is doing really well. That tip's low, so the belly's not super abrupt. So yeah, so far so good. Here we're going to test the ergos on this piece of birch, see how well that edge wants to kind of bite into the wood. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm really able to force a lot of pressure down into the wood. I'm able to get the fine curls when needed. And the grip of the scales is comfortable. However, the placement of that pocket clip, I knew it was going to become a problem because of how high it is all the way to the back. Whenever I really started bearing down, it was a little uncomfortable. I could feel that clip really pushing into my palm of my hand. Now you can get through it, without that much of an issue, but it would have been nicer with a lower profile clip if that's where the clip has to be. But other than that, I think it performed great, and no hot spots besides the top of that clip. And it wasn't terrible, like I'm kind of showing it right there. Started bothering my hand kind of bad. But other than that, the handle was a lot more comfortable than expected, especially for a flat scaled knife. Now we move to the 1/2 inch twisted sisal rope, and we're gonna see if the knife has bite to it. At first it felt like it was kind of sliding, but the more I got into it, I think it was my hands were just tired. It was performing nicely. Anytime you have thin edge geometry and a good edge on the knife, it's going to shine in this rope cutting. It's doing a good job of catching the rope, not wanting to skate off. The knife has enough belly to cut on a flat surface easily, and for the most part, it was fairly easy. I did a lot of push cuts here. And Kubey does a good job, with their edges. The factory edges usually last fairly long. And one thing I like about the AUS 10 is it's very easy to get a very, very sharp edge on it, and it's easy to strop back once you're done. I end up making 45 cuts through the sisal rope before I run out of rope. That's a respectable number for AUS 10. It's kind of similar to 14C almost, in my opinion. It might last a little bit longer, but not that much longer. Because that low tip, doing drag cuts like this is easy. You're getting a good bit of surface edge. You're getting a good bit of that edge onto the cutting surface, making that type of stuff easy. The edge still feels really, really good, and nothing really gave it that much of a problem. This is the only thing that usually gives knives problem, but that broad blade being nice and thin just blast through it. No issues whatsoever. And we'll see what kind of bite it has once we get to the denim. This is that nasty 12-ounce denim, and it did just fine. I thought it was going through it nicely. and I was fairly impressed. You know, Daryl's 10 usually does pretty good, and this one did, you know, better than most. Once we're done, we'll test that edge out. All right, let's see how that edge is after all that cutting. Let's try that again. I think that's my fault. Yeah, it's pretty good. Right there at the very tip, right there, it's got a little small hang up, but I think that's good enough. I'd say the blade performed really well. It was nice and slicey. It held a good edge. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of the knife. It's a flipper deployment, riding on ceramic ball bearings and a ceramic detent ball. It's a little odd shape on that flipper tab. It's just straight up. Now, they did knock off that point there. It has some jimping. I just don't really get this portion right here, maybe to knock off a little weight. It does come out nice and fast. However, it's not the most comfortable flipper tab because you light switch it, and you know, after a while you start feeling that top, and you really, it's hard to push button it because this is flat. But due to where the placement of that flipper tab is, almost in front of that pivot, you got a lot of momentum with that blade coming around. So nice dialed detent. The drop-in action on mine is, it's okay, but at the price point, I think it's more than acceptable. Like I said, it comes out nicely. The handle scales on this particular one's black micarta. They left it to where it's got good texture to it. The actual fabric sitting on top of the surface. Hopefully you can see that good. Just listen. Offers a good bit of grip to it. Now the scales are flat. Nice chamfer going all the way around, so there's no sharp edges where you don't want them to be. Kubey branded pivot. Does sit a little bit proud of the scales. You got countersunk hardware. T8 on the pivot. T8 on the body screws. T6 on the clip screws. You do have a deep carry pocket clip that is in, it's not inset, but the screws are countersunk. It is tip up, left or right hand carry. Goes in and out of the pocket nicely. You have enough ramp there and completely buries into the pocket. Now you do have a flipper tab right here. If you put anything else in the pocket, it will come in contact with that flipper tab. Now, during the cutting, I talked about the clip being somewhat of a hot spot because of it being all the way to the back right here and this getting skinny. Whenever I was pushing into that wood, you can see where that clip is sitting on the fat of my hand right there. I could start to feel it. It wasn't a major hot spot, but I could definitely feel it. I definitely knew it was there, and I definitely tried to change my grip up a few times because of it. You do have a flow-through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs in the back. You have tons of internal milling on both top and bottom to save on weight. First off, in grams, 131.4 grams and 4.6 ounces. So it's a little bit of a weighty knife. You do have a broad blade causing that. The balance point of the knife is right here, which is pretty good. It's right in that troll area, so it doesn't feel heavy in the hand, and it carries well. I didn't think it was, you know, too heavy. The lockup on the knife is sitting, I'd say, at around about 30-40%. No play up and down, no side to side whatsoever. Access to the lock bar is okay because that lock sits up a little bit proud of the show side scale. It has a little bit of texture. I can get my thumb in there fairly easily. It could be a little bit better, but you know, I'm okay with it the way it is. Two good size comparisons are the Kaiser Mad Tanto and the Civivi Conspirator. Two more great side references, the Kubey Titus and the Kaiser Kobold 2. It really reminded me of this one a lot. And lastly, we had the Ontario Wrap Model 1 and 2. Let's recap some of my nitpicks and complaints. First, I would have liked to see the sharpening choil extended. Just give me some sharpening life so it doesn't start to widen up in the back right here after the first sharpening. Next, for me, this is probably the biggest thing, is where the pocket clip is. Maybe scooted down a little bit closer to the middle spot, just so that's not an issue, or a lower profile clip. Like, see this on the Titus, you can see you got a wider section. This gets narrow right here. This is right in the middle. So this one stays out of the way for me completely. But anytime you see this, you know, that's where it's going to sit depending on your hand size. My medium-sized hand, it sits right there. And then lastly, I don't love the design of that flipper tab. I would have much rather see this portion like this on this side with jimping on here. That would have been nice and comfortable and, you know, nice and easy to deploy. Once again, on the Titus, I love the way they canted this back, and it's very comfortable. I could flip this one all day. However, like I said, it's not the most uncomfortable thing in the world. I could flip it for a while, and I do have, you know, rather beat up hands. So, you know, it might not bother the average person. So my overall thoughts on the value of the knife at $56. I think it's a great buy. If any of the things I talked about aren't deal breakers for you, and you like the overall aesthetic of the knife, you want a nice slicing knife that's fairly comfortable, you know, you might better find a clip that you could change for this, like a mill clip or something. I'd say go for it. You know, I like the overall aesthetics. I like the slicing power of the knife. At $56, yes. Whenever some of these first come out, they're like 70 something. But once they've, you know, made it to where they have a big batch of them, they usually drop it down to like that $56 price range for their AUS 10 and their 14C. And at that, yeah, I think it's still a good bargain. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one.